The laugh was loud, sharp, and unforgettable, and, for Emily Carter, it marked the exact second her life shifted. It happened in front of everyone. Neighbors, friends, family, phones were raised. Smiles ready, waiting for a moment worth sharing online. No one expected that moment to end in silence and sirens. Emily stood near the long table in her parents' backyard, the summer air warm against her skin. The cake sat in the center, tall and flawless, blue frosting smooth as glass. It was Rachel's birthday, and Rachel loved moments like this, big, bright, and focused on her. Emily had shown up early, helped set up chairs, and smiled when people thanked her. She always did. She played her part well. Music played softly from a speaker. Laughter floated around like it always did at family events. Emily tried to relax, but there was a familiar tight feeling in her chest. Family gatherings made her careful. She watched, listened, and stayed just a step behind. Rachel, her older sister, was glowing. She had that kind of energy that pulled people in without effort. Growing up, Rachel had been bold and fearless, the kind of person who turned mistakes into jokes. Emily was the opposite. Quiet, thoughtful, the one who felt things deeply but said little. When someone called out, "Time for cake," the crowd gathered fast. Rachel wrapped an arm around Emily's shoulders, pulling her close. Cameras clicked. Someone shouted, "Sister moment?" Emily smiled, unsure. Then, without warning, Rachel shoved her forward. Emily's face hit the cake hard. Frosting filled her mouth and eyes. The table shook. Gasps turned into laughter. Loud rolling laughter. People clapped. Someone yelled that was perfect. Rachel laughed the loudest. Emily stumbled back, stunned. Her head rang. A sharp pain spread across her cheek, deep and sudden. She tasted sugar and metal. For a moment, she couldn't tell which way was up. "Relax," Rachel said between laughs. "It's just cake." Emily wiped her face with shaking hands. Frosting dripped onto her dress. Her ears buzzed. She tried to laugh it off, but the sound wouldn't come. Her vision blurred slightly, like the world had gone out of focus. People kept laughing. Someone handed her napkins. Someone else made a joke about payback. Rachel was already turning back to the crowd, soaking in the attention like sunlight. Emily stepped away, heart pounding. The pain didn't fade. It grew heavier, spreading behind her eye and into her head. She told herself it was nothing. She had always been told she overreacted. She sat down, breathing slow, trying not to ruin the party. Minutes passed, then more. The noise felt distant, like it was happening underwater. The laughter felt sharp instead of warm. Emily pressed her fingers to her cheek and winced. A neighbor noticed. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," Emily said, though the words felt thin. By the time the sun began to set, the headache was impossible to ignore. Her stomach turned. The world tilted when she stood. Her mother frowned, concern finally breaking through the party mood. "You don't look right," her mother said. Emily wanted to go home. She didn't want questions. She didn't want drama. But when her vision blurred again, fear crept in, quiet and cold. The drive to the emergency room was short but endless. Streetlights streaked past the window. Emily rested her head against the seat, every bump sending pain through her face. She kept thinking about the laughter. How quickly it had come. How quickly everyone had moved on. The ER was calm, almost too calm. Soft lights, clean walls, the smell of disinfectant. Emily checked in, gave her name, and sat down. The room felt heavy with waiting. A nurse called her back. Questions were asked. Simple ones. Where did it hurt? How did it happen? Emily hesitated. "My sister pushed my face into a cake," she said quietly. The nurse nodded without comment, writing it down. No smile, no joke. That alone felt strange. Soon after, a doctor walked in. His name was Daniel Harris. He spoke in an even, calm voice that made it easier to breathe. He listened without rushing her, eyes focused, expression serious. He examined her cheek carefully. Asked about dizziness, about her vision, about pain. I'd like to get an X-ray, he said. Just to be safe. Emily nodded. She was tired. She just wanted the pain to stop. The X-ray room was cold. She lay still, staring at the ceiling, listening to the machine hum. Her thoughts drifted to childhood memories, Rachel's jokes. Rachel's confidence. Rachel always stepping forward while Emily learned to step aside. She wondered when it became normal to laugh things off that hurt. The wait afterward felt longer. Emily sat alone, hands folded, heart beating too fast. She told herself it would be fine. A headache. A bruise. Something small. Then Dr. Harris returned. His expression was different. He looked at the screen again, then back at Emily. The room felt suddenly smaller. I'm going to make a call, he said. Emily's stomach dropped. A call. Why? Dr. Harris picked up the phone. His voice was calm but firm. I need an ambulance transfer, he said. Yes. Facial fracture. Emily's breath caught. Wait, she said softly. What? He covered the phone for a moment and looked at her. The X-ray shows a fracture near your cheekbone, he explained. It needs immediate care. Emily stared at him, stunned. From the cake. From the impact, he said gently. The word impact echoed in her mind. As he finished the call, a strange quiet filled the room. The laughter from earlier felt like it belonged to another life. Emily thought of Rachel's face, laughing, carefree. She wondered if Rachel even realized what she'd done. Sirens sounded faintly in the distance. Emily sat still, heart racing, realizing that what everyone had called a joke had left a mark that couldn't be laughed away. And for the first time that day, someone had taken her pain seriously. The ambulance lights flashed red and white against the walls as Emily lay on the stretcher, gripping the sides with trembling hands. Every bump in the road sent a jolt through her cheek, sharp and undeniable. And the sound of the siren was both terrifying and strangely reassuring. She wasn't alone anymore. Someone was taking her seriously. Someone was acting like her pain mattered. Inside the ER, the world moved with quiet urgency. Nurses wheeled her into a room with soft lighting, where the faint smell of antiseptic mixed with the hum of machines. Dr. Daniel Harris was there again, waiting with a calm but serious expression. He explained each step as the team prepared her for further evaluation, making sure she understood every detail without using confusing medical terms. His voice was steady, grounding her even as the ache in her face throbbed and her heart raced. The X-ray showed a small fracture near your cheekbone, he said, scanning the results again. It's not life-threatening, but it needs proper care immediately. That's why I called the ambulance. Emily's eyes widened. I didn't think it was that bad. It was just a cake, she whispered, feeling embarrassed. Dr. Harris shook his head gently. Intent doesn't erase impact. What happened may have seemed like a harmless joke, but your body tells a different story. We have to treat it seriously. As the medical team began stabilizing her, Emily's thoughts drifted to her sister Rachel. She thought about the laughter, the cameras, the clapping, and the way Rachel had seemed to shine so effortlessly while Emily faded into the background. The pain in her face was real, but the ache in her chest was older, heavier, and deeper. It was a lifetime of being overlooked, of swallowing her feelings so that others could enjoy the spotlight. Rachel appeared later, standing awkwardly at the door, her usual confidence nowhere in sight. Her eyes were wide, reflecting shock and guilt. She hadn't expected this. Nobody had. The moment that had seemed funny on the lawn now had consequences bigger than she could have imagined. I didn't mean to hurt you, Rachel stammered, voice low. Everyone was laughing. I didn't know. Emily looked at her sister, at the vulnerability that rarely showed in public. For a second, she didn't say anything. The pain in her face throbbed, but the pain in her heart was more complicated. She realized that this moment wasn't just about a joke gone wrong. It was about years of feeling invisible, about learning to stay quiet while Rachel took center stage. I know, Emily said finally, her voice soft but steady. But I was hurting long before today. Rachel nodded, silent now, understanding that some things couldn't be fixed with an apology. She hadn't noticed before how much Emily held inside, the quiet struggles beneath a polite smile. That realization hit Rachel harder than the sight of the bruised face. And for the first time, she saw her sister not as a supporting character in her own life, but as a person with feelings, needs, and strength. Emily's treatment continued with careful attention from the medical team. The fracture was minor but required monitoring and rest. Painkillers eased the throbbing and ice packs reduced swelling. Each step of the process was slow, deliberate, and careful everything the casual chaos of the backyard party had not been. Emily felt seen, respected, and cared for in a way she rarely allowed herself to experience. Over the next few days, she healed physically, but something else began to shift. She noticed Dr. Harris checking in more frequently, asking not just about her face, but about her well-being. His attention wasn't invasive or romantic in a way that made her uncomfortable. It was thoughtful, gentle, and consistent. Conversations that began with medical questions gradually included soft humor, shared observations about the hospital, and small, meaningful exchanges that made Emily feel valued. Emily began to understand that care could exist quietly. It didn't have to be loud or dramatic. Sometimes it arrived in the form of someone who actually listened, someone who acted when it mattered, and someone who noticed the details no one else saw. Meanwhile, Rachel struggled with her own feelings. She kept replaying the moment over and over, wondering how a single act meant as a joke had escalated into such a serious situation. She started to understand the complexity of Emily's world, the unspoken burdens she carried, and the depth of feelings that had been hidden behind politeness and patience. This insight didn't erase the mistake, but it planted the seed for change. Days turned into a week. Emily's bruises faded, swelling decreased, and slowly she returned to normal activities. But she returned different. Her voice was firmer, her boundaries clearer, and her willingness to speak up had grown. She no longer felt compelled to step back so others could shine. Her sister's laughter, once so overpowering, now reminded her of the importance of being seen, of being heard, and of standing her ground. One afternoon, while sitting quietly in a follow-up appointment, Emily noticed Dr. Harris smile at her longer than usual. He asked how she was doing, not just physically, but how she really felt. There was no pressure, no rush, only a patient attentiveness that made Emily feel safe. It was a new experience for her, the kind of connection that didn't demand anything, yet offered everything in its presence. Emily thought about the irony of the entire situation. A single push into a cake had led to medical attention, self-realization, and the quiet possibility of connection she hadn't expected. Life, she realized, had a way of forcing truths into the open, whether people were ready or not. Moments that seemed trivial could reveal hidden patterns, expose long-buried feelings, and create opportunities for change. Rachel visited more cautiously after that, often standing back and waiting for Emily to guide the conversation. Their relationship shifted subtly but profoundly. Laughter returned, but it was tempered with understanding and care. Rachel learned to listen before joking, to consider before acting, and to recognize that her sister's feelings mattered as much as her own. Emily, in turn, found new strength. She realized that she didn't need loud attention to validate her existence. Her experiences, thoughts, and emotions deserved recognition in their own right. And she discovered the quiet power of presence, of people who truly saw you, listened, and acted when it counted. Through the ordeal, Emily also discovered something tender in herself. She began to entertain the idea that care and kindness could evolve into deeper feelings, not forced or dramatic, but gentle and patient. There was a quiet warmth in Dr. Harris's steady attention, a subtle connection that didn't demand anything but gave space for everything to grow naturally. The story of the cake, the laughter, and the emergency room became a turning point. It taught Emily to value herself, to recognize the weight of her feelings, and to understand that life's small moments often carried the deepest lessons. It also taught Rachel the importance of awareness, empathy, and humility. Emily's life moved forward with bruises fading but lessons permanent. She healed physically and emotionally, slowly rebuilding a sense of trust in herself and others. The pain of that day remained a marker, a reminder that even small acts could have large consequence. You said that sometimes those consequences could lead to growth, understanding, and unexpected connections. In the quiet moments that followed, Emily realized something essential. Love, tension, and care weren't always loud or obvious. Sometimes they were the quiet gestures, the steady presence, the willingness to act when no one else would. And sometimes the heart opened not through fireworks, but through small, gentle truths revealed in moments of vulnerability. By the time she left the hospital, Emily had changed. She was stronger, more self-aware, and ready to step into her own life with confidence. Rachel had changed too, learning to measure her actions and words, understanding the depth of her sister's inner world. And somewhere in the process, Emily discovered the quiet thrill of potential romance, not flashy, not rushed, but steady, meaningful, and real. The cake had been smashed. The laughter had faded. But out of that chaos came clarity, healing, and a sense of connection that Emily knew she would carry for the rest of her life. She never looked at a cake the same way again, but, more importantly, she never underestimated the power of being seen, being heard, and being cared for. Life, Emily realized, was fragile, unpredictable, and often unfair. But it was also full of moments that could teach her who she truly was, who she could trust, and how love could arrive quietly. Even in the aftermath of something as simple as a birthday joke gone wrong,